Hey everybody, welcome to BrickVault. My name's Jack and today is another LEGO Top 10 Creations of the Week. This is where I find some cool LEGO creations throughout the week and basically just choose my 10 favorite and we take a look at them. At the end of the episode, we show fan creations. That's you guys, the viewers, can submit your own LEGO creations to us through an email address and then your builds show up at the very end. I might actually make an episode that's totally dedicated just to the fan mock creations, but I'm actually hopping on a plane to go to Bricks by the Bay basically in an hour or two from now, and I just don't have time to set up another episode this week, maybe next week. Anyways, let's jump right into the creations, with the first one being by GolPlaysWithLego, and technically it's two builds. This is W.L.Y and S.P.D Droids. These are fun little walker creations. The build style for the head is somewhat similar. You can see that they're definitely droids that are sort of related to each other in some form of design, and they're certainly related to some form of insect or bug. They're described as companion droids by the builder, and you can see how it scales with a minifigure. These might be something that minifigs or people would perhaps transport themselves around on, or I sort of like to think of them as maybe small spy droids that look kind of like bugs. Either way, the build is fun, and I really do like the shape for the heads. Now let's move on to number 9. This is called The Most of Hong Kong by the builder City Sun, and I believe this was created for part of a contest. But what we have here is a great sort of combination of iconic things that you can find in the city of Hong Kong. The building at the bottom is the Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center, which is pretty recognizable if you're familiar with the area. Then I think the most eye-catching part of the build is the gigantic sitting bronze Buddha. Also quite an impressive thing to see in person, and the build is awesome. It really does actually look like Buddha, even the face. There you can also see a trolley car as well as the tram that goes to Victoria Peak. And maybe I'm just missing Hong Kong, but this is actually an awesome LEGO build and something that definitely deserves to be recognized for the week. Let's move on to number 8. This is just one of so many awesome builds that we get from Djokson. The title of this one is called Flight of the Frumblegogg, and I don't know if I've seen such an excellently animated creature at such a small scale. You can see how it stands up. It's just clipped in at the very tip of the tail on that tiny little dish piece at the bottom, and this probably has to be sort of perfectly balanced, like maybe a stack of stones, in order for it to be in this position like this. But I'm glad that the builder went through the effort to get this mini dragon, it looks like, up in this tiny, maybe somewhat intimidating looking pose, or maybe it's trying to be intimidating, but it looks kind of just more cute than anything else. It's an awesome build, lots of energy, and such a small little creature, and it's small enough even that I might take a stab at doing something like this myself in the future. Number 7 is Roll's Windmill by Markus Rollbuhler. Sorry if I said that incorrectly, but it's an awesome build and one of the better windmills I think I've seen. One of the main aspects of the builds that really drew my eye was not just the builds that created the design for the actual spinning fins of the windmill, but the awesome technique that was used to create the blue thatched roof at the top. I'm not sure how they did it, actually. The stone archways at the bottom look like how stone archways would actually look in real life, and the uneven sort of hilly or smooth exterior on the outside with the grass in the path has probably more depth than I've seen on any little bit of outdoor landscape. You can see the path is just barely raised above the rest, and there pretty much is no single flat area on the land. The border of the build is awesome with all the slope pieces on the sides. There's really no single cutoff area. This is really just a great contained build that I bet looks amazing from the other side, but unfortunately we don't have any other pictures. Number 6 is a build that I find really impressive. This is Crystal Fountain by Jarren Harkema. It looks as though this may have been inspired a little bit by MC Escher, seeing as you don't see much of the hill or depth, especially when you're looking at the crystal fountain from this angle. And this kind of reminds me of GBC, or a Great Ball Contraption, in so much as this is a mechanical build that does indeed move pieces from one end to another, but it's not overly complex like a Rube Goldberg machine. It just simply moves all of these crystal pieces, or diamond or gem pieces, from the bottom to the top. The video is somewhat mesmerizing, and it's great sort of seeing the crystals move around the way that they do. It kind of feels like flowing water. Anyways, I'll leave a link to where I found the video for that, and by the way, links for everything that I'm talking about is in the description below, and I encourage you guys to check out the builders individually. This is number 5, Skull Knight by chubbybots. Now, you don't have to be a big fan of Biotical in order to appreciate the awesome figure builds that have been coming from the leftover parts of the abandoned theme, and Skull Knight is just awesome. It looks so good. The dynamic stance of this character is really captivating, and that is an awesome repurposed use of Phasma's cape on the back. Jumping down to number 4 from the builds by Mr. Bricks, this is the Back to the Future train, specifically from the 3rd Back to the Future movie and the final scene. This is Doc Brown's time-traveling flying train, which by all respects is kind of a ridiculous contraption, but it was so cool in the movie when I first saw it, and now I want this so bad to be the motorized train that spins around our Lego city. As far as I can tell, it really does look like this build matches up with the one from the movie to a T. And speaking of which, now I really want to get a modified DeLorean to fit on the train tracks to push around the city. I think that would also be a really fun build. Number 3 is a build that I'm gonna pronounce incorrectly. It's Ha Fa Bang by Eugene 10, and that's the name of this Laotian temple or palace. There's so much about this build that is really impressive. The high angle of the roof of this palace has really been captured quite well, but I think the most sort of eye-catching area of the build is all of the intricate gold detailing that we have on the front and the sides. The ornate detailing really does match well and sort of contrast well with all of the white exterior that goes around the entire border. It really does make up a massive foundation, and I can't help but just feel impressed every time I take a look at this build. Now, jumping down to number 2, this is a build Coyote Tango by Lego 7. Now, just like the Skull Knight had a wonderful pose and sort of dynamic look with all of those bionic parts, we've got an equally impressive build, just as dynamic, just as awesome looking, but made entirely of Lego bricks. Now, the modern sort of giant robot mech look just looks better using Lego bricks and not Bionicle. I mean, the bricks themselves actually complement this type of look a lot more, and there's an awesome balance between a lot of sort of harsh lines that make up a lot of the legs, and there's a wonderful technique that makes up sort of the rounded shoulder pauldrons on the tops of the arms. I don't know if this is a design that is supposed to be taken from maybe a type of Gundam, or if this is based in any way, shape, or form off of a pre-existing robot, but at the end of the day, I don't really care. It looks awesome. If this wasn't inspired by something that was already existing in another sort of fantasy universe, then perhaps it's going to end up inspiring something later in the future. Now let's jump on to the very last one, or number 1 really, I should say, for the week. This is Rori Dulgisson, Thane from Karak Zorn by the builder Dwalin Forkbeard. This is a character from Warhammer, and easily like the best build I've ever seen for a dwarf in Lego. The shape of the helmet in the front is probably one of my favorite bits. The golden rim that makes up the bottom of the eyes, and just sort of the peak of the helm with those wing tip features on either side. It just looks awesome. I believe the beard has probably been braided into several smaller strands, and there's those little gold ringlets that rock around the outside. We've got an awesome build that makes up that hammer, and just the shoulder pauldrons, everything. It looks so good. I think the only thing on here that actually isn't Lego is the custom-made cape that's supposed to fit onto the back, but I don't care. I don't care if it's not real Lego. I mean, there is just so much cool stuff about this, and even the ground or stand that the dwarf is on is built quite well. The overall shape of this character is just so good and proportional, and this no doubt looks amazing to be around in real life. Now there it is for my personal top 10 creations of the week. It's now time to check out the fan mocks. If anybody wants to send in their own mock creations for next week's episode, you can send it to the email that is on the screen below. Also, it will be written in the description below of this video. Thanks a lot for watching, everybody, and here are the fan mocks.